Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tigers Down Under. I'm your host, Alex, and with me I have Dan. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, look, pretty good. Bit disappointed. I actually managed to sleep through my alarm and miss the win, but I watched it today. It's pretty good performance, I thought.
Yeah, never in doubt. When we're away from home, it's bizarre the record that we're on at the moment, winning all our away games, losing all our home games. I saw the suggestion that we should set up in the away lockers for the next home game. Maybe get the bus into the stadium and everything like that. Just treat it, maybe stay at a hotel the night before as well. Very, very strange. Good.
Did Shota even suggest we wear the away shirts for our next home game? I think he did.
That'd be great.
Some comment like that.
Yeah.
Something about changing the shirts, he said, and I was like,
yeah, you gotta do something like that. You just gotta change it up, see what works. But no, look, good win, good performance from City on the weekend against Middlesbrough. First win in I think it was 32 years or something like that in the league up there, which was I sort of lost track of that as a record, but it's a pretty impressive one.
Yeah, they did say something crazy like that in the call since the 87 or something season, which is wild. I think we won there in our league in our FA Cup run, but
yeah, that's right.
Obviously, that's not the league. But yeah, look, really good game. I thought. I think we made sort of a bit of a reference to it in the last week's pod about sort of setting up similar to how we went at defeated Bournemouth. Setting up fairly defensively and sort of trying to play on the counter and just, absorb some pressure, tire them out, and then come at them later, which sort of seemed to work. I think a bit fortuitous I think they had a fairly early injury to one of their centre backs, which forced their subs a little bit and obviously changed Wilder's plans, you would imagine. But I think overall, just a really solid performance. Trying to think of my 3-2-1, and
it's a tough one.
I think I've got a surprising name, one that hasn't been mentioned much this season.
Yeah,
so it'll be good.
Well, we've actually just got Logan who's joined us as well, so I'll bring Logan in now. Logan, how are you?
I'm well. Evening, lads. Good to be here, and what a time to celebrate. Hey, a huge result away at the Riverside, and I guess that's probably assurance for the next season. Now we can stop crunching numbers and get the sandals and head off to the beach.
Yeah, that's right. I think mathematically we just need Barnsley to lose one more game for the season, and I think if we're talking statistically, I think it's a pretty much a 99, 100% chance that happens. But hey, yeah, Logan, what did you think of the game? I mean, we had Elia came in to start for Eves, was the only change, and Dan and I were talking just before the episode started about Syed Menesh's form in the game. His performance seemed pretty good up top for us, and all around the boys looked pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was one of those interesting games where, obviously away to Middlesbrough, we knew that it was going to be tough, particularly with where they're sitting. But it was just that really kind of dogged performance. I don't think we were great with possession, but I thought we broke up the play and defended well, and it absorbed a huge amount of pressure. And I guess, to be fair, I don't think they were too great on the finishing on the day either. But yeah, it was just one of those solid away performances, and obviously the goal was fairly special, whether it was an error from the keeper or he kind of lost sight of the flight of the ball, or whatever it was. I think at the end of the game, it was a deserved result, given the fact that we kind of absorbed the pressure when we had to, and then provided enough to kind of make them second guess. And obviously all it takes is one, and what a finish from KLP.
Yeah, that's right. I think I saw the stat actually that Lumley's conceded his most goals against us, which is a pretty remarkable one. And you think back to earlier in the season, I think the first goal that we scored in that game was a really unfortunate own goal that kind of cannoned off the post into the back of his head. So he's had a habit of conceding less than spectacular goals against us, I would say. And that trend certainly continued in this game. You mentioned there about the shots as well. I mean, we were looking at the stats before we went to air, and I think it was 5 shots on target for Boro against 3 from us. So you think for all their possession and all their so-called dominance in the game, it was actually remarkably close in terms of actual clear-cut chances created.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that just speaks into it. Like we haven't really seen enough from Shotta to kind of maybe get his stamp on the type of football that he wants to play, and I think that's because he's still kind of dealing with a mix and match squad, and I think he's still adjusting to the championship himself. So, I mean, it was a very City-like performance from a manager who we're still trying to figure out. So, fair play. It was a great result, and as I said, the importance of it can't be underestimated.
And what do you reckon? Logan, Dan was saying just before, I think Shotta had the suggestion that maybe we wear the away shirts in the next game at home, just to try something different.
If it's not broken, don't fix it. I reckon if that's the jersey we're getting success with, we might as well keep it. I do remember that on one of the flashback episodes, Alex, there's that away jersey that we're talking about. And I think it was 12 or 13 unbeaten games in the season where I think we finished like mid-table. It was truly remarkable. So you might be onto something.
And now, Dan, you were saying just before a player that not many people would talk about. I suspect you're referring to the man up top. What did you make of Said Manesh's game?
It's not who I was thinking of.
No,
but,
it's not. Well, there you
go. No. Different players in my head for one who performed really well, and one that's not been getting a lot of plaudits lately. But in terms of Said Manesh, I thought he did really well. Did his best to get himself about, to get involved in the play, dropped deep a few times. Heard afterwards that Dino was critical of those decisions of Said Manesh's to drop deep, saying that he needs to stay higher and leave himself as an option. But I think like there's only 2 or 3 times I think throughout the game that he dropped really, really deep, and in the first 5 minutes he was on the edge of our 18-yard box poking a ball away from, might have been McGree or someone who was about to take a shot from on goal. So I think he did really well, involved in a couple of really nice plays. The one that set Honeyman through on goal, where he chipped the keeper and then they cleared it off the line. So, I think won a few good free kicks as well with his trickery. Less getting involved in the wrestle like that Eves does, and more just being able to sort of outwit and outmaneuver perhaps his defenders a little bit. So I thought overall like a really strong performance, and exactly what I was hoping sort of we would see with that first start, the start that we've been sort of calling for a few weeks. I thought he really did stand up and deliver a really strong performance overall. And I think you sort of touched on it off air. If we can get in a game where we are going to be more dominant and more attacking, then even he'll get even more opportunities to show what he's capable of.
Yeah, no doubt at all. I'd actually forgotten that McGree was going to be lining up for Boro. So I was a bit surprised at the start of the game. I'd completely forgotten he'd moved there. It's sort of gone a little bit quiet in terms of his form up there, I think, in terms of, I don't think he's scoring a whole lot of goals. But yeah, so it was a bit surprising seeing him in the starting lineup, which was a bit fun. I wonder if he and Elder caught up after the game as a couple of Aussies up there. Logan, I might go to you first of all for your 3-2-1 for the game, and then I'll go to Dan.
Yeah, look, I always feel like there's a clouded judgment in a 1-0 game, because the strike from KLP was, ultimately the defining moment of the game. So I've given him the three points. I was kind of wrestling with this one. I thought Slater was really good, and it probably alludes to the type of game, like just how defensively we kind of broke up the play really well, despite being fairly wasteful in possession. And then the last one that I had that I thought was pretty decent was Fleming as well. I know that he probably wasn't. I'm sneaking him in there for a punter's point. I don't think he was amazing, but I think that he definitely played his role. And he's just been, we've talked about him frequently in recent times about the performances that he's putting in. And I thought the weekend was just another example of that.
Yeah, no doubt. He's having a terrific season. And it's going to be really interesting to see sort of going into next season what we do with the sort of the Fleming Elder situation down back, because they're both quite capable left backs. Dan, yours?
I was thoroughly impressed with Said Manesh's first start. So I've given him the 3 points, even though he didn't score and didn't do maybe some of the things that you would expect a striker to do. But I thought he was involved enough and got himself about and showed plenty that I think he actually is a viable, he's actually competing with Eves for starting in the next game. I honestly think they're fairly comparable now And Sudenish has footwork on his side and some other bonuses that maybe put him ahead. For 2, I've gone KLP, same sort of deal. The goal was the defining moment, realistically. You could almost throw Honeyman into that equation with that goal, because I think it's his run that I think blindsides Lumley a little bit. I think he's concerned that Honeyman's coming in to get a touch, but doesn't. Anyway, side note, because unfortunately I didn't give a point to Honeyman either. He's missed out completely. I've gone for Alfie Jones as my 1 point. I thought he played a sensational game. I thought there's one moment where I thought he got caught out of position. He slipped or something, but I thought overall he was really good, made really good options, was trying to give good passes, and there's a few times with the other centre backs where I was watching McLaughlin and Greaves and all that. They would receive the ball, and then instead of playing it, out to Jones or out to the other side to get out of trouble, they were then playing it back into that same channel. So that disappointed me a little bit. But Alfie Jones just seemed to have a really good game, and one I think he has sort of just been slipping under the radar lately. Probably over the last 4 months, it's been all about Greaves and McLaughlin alternating between having really good games, and Jones has just sort of, since he's come in for Bernard, just sort of trickling along, doing his thing. Never doing anything, sensationally bad or sensationally good, but I thought he had a really, really strong performance against Boro.
Yeah, no doubt. I think our defense is actually almost becoming underrated. We talk about it a lot, but even then, I think the fact that we've conceded as few goals as we have, considering where we are on the table, you just have to think if we improve that front third of the team, it actually transforms us quite quickly into a much more competitive side, because you're right. Like, our entire defense are all, we talked about, Logan's talked about Fleming, you've talked about Jones, are in terrific form, and really showing a lot of potential. I've gone reasonably similar. I've gone Lewis Potter for the 3 votes as well, scoring that decisive goal. I've changed my 2 votes sort of last minute while I was thinking about it. I've actually gone Ingram for the 2 votes. I think he was really immense in goal again. There was a few chances that were only sort of half chances where you think, yes, he made him look quite comfortable. There was that deflected shot, things like that, where you think they could have been problematic. They could have caused us issues, but he just looked really calm and collected in goal. And he's in terrific form as well. And then I've gone, Slater for the 1 vote. I thought he was really terrific in midfield. It's interesting. We sort of alluded to it last week, Dan. We haven't really talked about George Honeyman too much, which is maybe a credit to Smallwood and Slater's roles in that midfield. Maybe a slide on Honeyman. I'm not sure which it is, because I still think Honeyman's having a pretty reasonable season. And as you said, he had that chance cleared off the line. He made that run to sort of deceive the keeper for Lewis Potter's shot. So it's not as if he's performing poorly. He's just not the standout that he was last season, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think you probably make a fair comment there that it's possibly the players around that are starting to step up a little bit more. I think you've mentioned Smallwood. That's another player who was fairly good against Boro and could have probably got points, from myself as well. But I think maybe it's just that there's less of that pressure on his own shoulders to be the one to create, to perform, to do something, now that everyone else is lifting, and we seem to have almost the right balance. I think you sort of still like some improvement in the final third would be good, but I think overall there's the defense seems to have it sorted. We have a really nice, that midfield trio of Slater, Smallwood and Honeyman seems to be working really well. KLP and Longman are doing their thing out wide, and it's just sort of finding number 9 who's going to bang in a few goals, and all of a sudden we are a very dangerous team.
Yeah, no, definitely. And speaking of improving the final third, maybe that's a good segue to our next topic, which is a few off-field rumours, or transfer rumours, I should say, off-season rumours. A name that got linked to us almost as soon as Jun took over the club as a name that's resurfaced and been linked again, and that's one Mesut Ozil. The player who many of us kind of didn't even realise was playing in that 2014 FA Cup final until he picked up his winner's medal at the end. He was, a bit of a non-entity in that game, is my key memory of him, as well as kind of going up to the cameras afterwards and saying, "Yeah, Gunners, yeah." And I was like, yeah, okay. Didn't really do too much. But, been linked with a free transfer to City. I think he's at Fenerbahce at the moment, and there's a bit of talk that they might try and terminate his contract and he'd be, sort of a free agent able to move to City. I think the articles that I saw are sort of saying he's weighing up moves between City and Inter Miami, David Beckham's MLS franchise. I can imagine that's probably a bit more of an attractive proposition. But I guess, Logan, I mean, the key question is actually in all of this, would we actually want him at the club? I mean, he's a very high pedigree player, highly regarded player. He is that sort of, dangerous age range where he's probably going to command a high wage and maybe not give a whole lot on the pitch. So is it actually a transfer that we'd want to do?
Yeah, it feels like one of those kind of FIFA bargains when, you're looking on the free agents and you see like the top name of recognition. And so you just kind of place a bid anyway. And I feel like that's very much the feel. I'm not too sure about the rumors, given that clearly it's just his relationship with the club owner that has probably got him linked. I don't think he's expressed any desire to kind of, leave Fenerbahce to head to the East Riding of Yorkshire. But I guess it is one of those things that when you consider, like, if they are willing to release a player of that caliber or that pedigree, there's at that stage in his career, then there's always a possibility that could happen. I suspect that, Inter Miami East, if that's the other club that they're also linking into, you would suggest that the kind of the fit of going across to the MLS probably makes a lot more sense at that stage than heading towards the championship, where that it's a dog eat dog kind of week in week out league. Doesn't seem to make as much sense, but I take it with a grain of salt. And if he were to be announced, it would be a very interesting signing for this stage of the journey in a City fan's life.
Yeah, and I think, as you said there and touched on the perfect point about the fact that the championship is such a competitive league, Dan, I mean, Ozil just doesn't strike me as he's sort of that luxury player. If you're maybe if you're a Fulham, if you're going to walk the league this season and you're just going to bang in 150 goals for the season or whatever they're going to end up scoring, that's the sort of club that you would have a Mesut Ozil at, because you're going to be winning every week and he's just laying off assists for Alexander Mitrovic. But I think given our stage of development, it doesn't seem as if we're going to suddenly transform into a 100-point romp the championship to to promotion next season.
Look, probably not, but depends. I mean, it really depends on what strikers we sign for next season. Who knows? Maybe Ilijali gets out the checkbook and we nab Lewandowski before he goes to Barca.
I was just about to say, I heard he's available, so maybe we get out a cheeky offer. Yeah.
No, look, I think in all reality, it's sort of the weird comparison that this reminds me of is the dumb Usain Bolt to the Central Coast Mariners thing. Like just a big publicity thing, like big recognizable name to a club that doesn't really have any right being involved in it. I don't really think he'd be a valuable addition to the squad in any meaningful way. I think, like, sure, he's got the experience and he's got the talent, but I think, like, the thing he's been accused of basically being a lazy player for a lot of his career. And I don't think that's going to help us, as you mentioned, especially in the championship, but just in general when we're trying to then reestablish ourselves as a club, as a big club moving forward. So I think also there was a thing, Ilijali's basically come out and put water on those rumors straight away. He basically said, like, there's nothing in it. Mesut's happy in Turkey. He wants to stay in Turkey. This is all just because we're good friends or something. So whether that's, I mean, he's a freaking marketing, guru personality. So it's whether it's true, whether this is truth or tactics,
that's right.
Who knows? But because what would be better than denying, and then unveiling Mesut Ozil like one day or something like that would be fairly big news if you manage to keep it quiet and deflect all the attention away. But yeah, I don't think it would be a good. I think it would probably cost us more than it would really realistically be worth.
Yeah, the German midfielder I actually wouldn't mind us signing, who came out actually talking about us a few days ago, is Ilkay Gundogan, who said that I think Ajun had reached out to him with an invitation to come and watch a game, and they'd had a cup game on at the same time, so he hadn't been able to do it. And he said, I'd love to get along and watch a few of the games next season because they're a really interesting club. And I was like, if you want to throw him a kit and he can just come out and run around for a few games as well if he wants to. he'd certainly be one that I wouldn't mind adding to the club. The other bit of news off field at the moment is the result of Ajun's Q&A session with fans recently, where I believe we've finally gotten wind of the unprecedented, never heard before, sort of revolutionary marketing sales pitch that Ajun has put to the fans, which is that he's going to take 500 City supporters on an all expenses paid trip to Turkey. I don't know if it's in this off season or if it's sort of, I think we were saying, is it after next season to see who actually attends the most games or something like that? Logan, what do you make of it?
I think it sounds like the Tigers down under are heading on tour, lads. I think
that's right.
That's what it sounds like to me. But look, I think it's really interesting. I like the idea of he came across as this very kind of charismatic show business kind of Turkish showbiz mogul, and to just hear like the ideas that he has and the crazy plan to have 500 people go on an all expenses paid trip. I like how absurd it is. It feels like it's like he's got a dartboard with random ideas, and the dart ran stray and landed on this one. And I think what it shows is his actual ability to genuinely care for the fans and think, what can I do? Like it almost shows like he's extending the arm or extending the olive branch, and recognizes that it's probably a hurt fan base as far as what they've been through under the old regime. And so, look, I like it. I think it's really cool. I don't know what it would be like. Imagine a holiday with 500 City fans in Turkey would be a good time. But it'll be interesting to see how it eventuates and what the feedback is for the people who do go.
Yeah, I wonder if it is this off season. I wonder if it's going to sort of coincide with a City friendly with like a Fenerbahce or a Galatasaray, and it'll be 500 all expenses paid trip to Turkey, and then you get to go to the game as well, because it would sort of make sense to center it around a game like that to get a decent City following at that game. Dan, what do you make of it?
Look, I'm on the same page as Logan. I think like it's a fresh of breath air, like just some wild, crazy ideas, and you're just going, it's just that crazy that it might just work. In terms of like the minor details and who exactly goes or whatever, I'm not 100% up to speed on that, but it seems like it's whoever attends the most games or something. They've got to, I guess, attend X amount of games to be eligible to go into that or something. I don't know, but look, in terms of you're looking for a way to reward people for going to the games, and I don't know whether this is just an admission of that we're not going to be able to perform on the pitch next season or what, but look,
need the extra incentive.
Look, it's I'm sort of it's going to be we sort of touched on it, but we talked about how it's going to be a new adventure and a wild ride and all that sort of stuff, and I think like he's just proven us right. Like it is going to be a wild ride, and you sort of never know what he's going to come out with and what he's going to do. But I think this is going to be more interesting and more fun and a better ride than having the sheik, the billionaires at Man City that they don't seem to do anything apart from give the club money, or Abramovich, who just gives Chelsea money. Like they don't ever. There's never seems to be these huge announcements about wild, crazy, fun things they're trying to do.
No connection with the fans.
Like, and I'm all about I'm all about this, like trying to repair and the bridges that have been burned by other people, not even by himself. Like he's just gone like, this is a club that is hurting, and how can I try and bring some fun, some enjoyment, some light back into these fans experiences. So I think it's 2 thumbs up from me.
Fair enough. All right, then let's move on to our quiz question for the week. Now, Logan, we've done a new game for the last 2 weeks with Dan, which is now a Who Am I game. It's rather than naming 3 players or 3 events or whatever, we're doing a Who Am I game. So I'll give you a series of clues, and you can make a guess after each clue, or you can just pass for the next clue if you don't have any ideas. But basically, I'll let you know the appearances and goals scored by this player in the league. Then I'll let you know the year that they joined and the year that they left if they're no longer at the club. Not going to give you the nationality this week because it makes it a bit obvious. So that's probably a bit of a hint. And then I'll give you the position, the shirt number if you're still unsure, and then finally their initials, which should sort of bring it home. So the first clue for this player is I made 119 appearances for City, scoring 24 goals.
119 appearances, 24 goals. Okay, so we're thinking.
And to help, these players are all from pretty much the last 10 years. So don't think too far back.
Trying to think of what 119 games is in seasons. We're talking like 2.5, right? Ish.
Yeah, well, so last week it was Andy Robertson and he made 99 league appearances for context.
Wow. Okay. I feel like that's pretty prolific for City as well in recent times.
It is.
I don't know how excited I should be about saying that, but it does feel like that's not too bad. We're talking the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, this is annoying. Feel like
I
Robert Corey more.
Well, that's not a bad guess. And good logic as well with the nationality thing as well. But it's not Robert Corrin. The next clue is I joined the club in 2017, leaving in 2020.
Oh, okay. I'm going to kick myself if I don't know this now. 27. What is this?
So we chatted before we went on air. We stitched you up, and I put your name forward for this one.
Yeah, Dan didn't want to do this one.
I didn't want to do 3 in a row. I felt like I was going to get it wrong, but no, you'll be right. You got this.
I feel like it's going to come to me. Probably after I get told, I'm just going to kick myself.
I can give you the next clue. The next clue should help, I reckon.
Yeah, I know. But
yeah.
The pride levels are taking a hit. That's all.
Fair enough.
Yeah, look, I never went to the 3rd clue. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, that's right. But 2017 goals. This isn't like a 119 appearances.
The year that he left might also be focus more on the year he left than the year he joined, maybe.
Yeah. I thought about this is part of the exodus. No, you have to give me the nationality.
Well, I'll give you the position and the shirt number, and then I'll see how we go on that one. But so I played on the wing, and I wore the number 7. And I can give you the nationality if you really want it, but it will give it away.
It's Krzyzewski.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry.
Well done.
Yeah.
No, that was good. Yeah, it is a tough one because otherwise I would have said, I would normally say I've joined the club in 2017, left in 2020. I'm Polish, and you go, oh, there's only one player. No, that's a good pull. It's a tricky one when you take away the nationality because you think, I mean, to be honest, I hear on the wing left in 2020, and I think, oh, like Bowen, but he scored too many goals. Or
I also feel like
I don't know.
You know how these days you blame COVID for everything? I feel like there's just this black hole in like the City years that kind of linked when we went down to League One. Like I kind of just don't know what happened. Like I know a lot of people left in 2020 and there was a big fallout and then we rebuilt, but I don't have fond memories of that team.
Over that 18 months from like 2019 to 2021, it's just such a blur and there's just so much turnover in that squad. Yeah, you're right.
And let's also, I mean, I almost feel like it's worth mentioning too, just how like ridiculous that partnership of Bowen and Grzycki was, because as soon as they left, we went truly down the gurgler. But it was just an incredible dynamic that you had. I remember the stat about how many assists and goals they had created between them, like for each other.
That's what I was going to say. Like in that clue, maybe giving his assists as well would have like.
Yeah, should have done that.
Because like I reckon 24 goals in that much, but I reckon he probably pretty close to that in assists as well, wouldn't he?
That's right. I was going to say. I mean, I was surprised that he only scored 24 goals. And you remember that when he joined us in the Premier League, I don't think he scored a goal in the Premier League. He only scored his first goal in that first season under Slutsky in the Championship. So he actually took a while to get going. But I guess as a winger, like a traditional winger, I guess Bowen played a bit up top as well. 24 goals over 2.5 seasons isn't too bad for that sort of level. So no, pretty good. No, good get on that one. That was a tricky one. All right, well, let's look ahead now. We've got 2 games to come this week. We sort of talked about the fact that we're pretty much safe after that win against Boro, but this would be to make it mathematical, either against Cardiff or midweek against Milwall. I can't actually remember the case last year, but Good Friday, I don't remember if we played on Good Friday last year as well. Maybe it's a championship thing. But I don't have this memory of, midnight Saturday morning as a game time. It's a very unique and interesting game time to have our game against Cardiff. It's, of course, the last of the 3 £2 games as well. So hopefully a pretty decent showing in that game. It is, of course, at home, 6 losses in a row. Whether we can break that streak will be interesting to see. Logan, how do you feel going into this game against Cardiff?
Honestly, can I say that I just don't care? I say that respectfully, but after the result at Middlesbrough, I just know now that it's going to be fun to watch the last couple of games, and I mean particularly to see how Manesh progresses up top and see if he can finish the season with a flurry of goals. I think that's a really positive thing to be looking for. And as we kind of touched on, the defense looks like it's really kind of solidified, and you never want to see the end of a season just one that kind of peters out and there's not much to look forward to. But I just feel now that the job's done, and every game feels like one of a pre-season friendly exhibition match style performance. And I'd actually really like to see some of our youth league players get a call up. So I think it's the perfect time for that. So look, I think it'll be an interesting game. I think it probably be similar to Middlesbrough. Like, you can throw a blanket over us and Cardiff. I don't necessarily think they're impossible to beat. I don't think they will have any fear of us, but it's got that feel of 2 safe teams, and it'll just be another fixture in the championship string that won't probably hold too much interest.
Yeah, you're not really selling the last few episodes of this podcast for the season as vital listens, but no, you are right, and we've also got Chris right here in the chat saying time to relax and look forward to next season, and he's right as well. And it is a sort of thing where in pre-season, if you'd said give us 5 games out from the end of the season, safety and nothing to worry about, you'd bite the hand off to get that. But when you're sitting here, you do wish that you had something to still play for, whether it's top half, whether it's top 6, whatever it is. It does feel a bit like that, where you look at the games, you're like, what is there to actually get me excited about the games? And I think, as you said, seeing Said Manesh hopefully get a few more games up top, maybe seeing some of the youth players, maybe seeing a bit of experimentation with the side to see what players are going to be around next season is the main thing to watch for. And Dan, I guess, I don't know, like how do you see, like what changes would you want to see for the lineup? Do you want to see basically the same 11 as the Boro game, as you sort of alluded to? Seeing Said Manesh up top again, getting another chance for him as well. Maybe we're sort of waiting. I mean, I think we heard on the contract front as well, they've said they've put it off to the end of the season, waiting for mathematical safety, all that sort of thing. Do you think we just want to get that mathematical safety, get the win against Cardiff, and then we can relax, or how do you see it?
I think I think we sort of do. You want to take that element of doubt, as slim as that is, as you sort of touched on with Barnsley. Like they need to win all their games, we need to lose them all, and it still would be real close anyway. I think like get a win here, make it certain, and that would be ideal. And then those contract talks can take place. That's probably then becomes the most exciting thing about the end of the season. Never mind the games, we can start looking at what the squad looks like for next season. I think, probably sort of.
I was a bit disappointed that they said they're holding off the contract talks to the end of the season. I was like, well, we've got nothing else to look forward to week. I'd love to see some contracts getting re-signed.
I think as Logan touched on, seeing Said Manesh get a few more games, hopefully nab a couple of goals, show us what he's capable of. In a bit of a run in the side, maybe even seeing, because I think Williams must be real close, because Shota's making comments about him almost every week about how he's not quite ready or whatever. I would hope that he is close to fitness and is able to make some sort of a return, I would like to see him play a little bit of football at the end of the season, because it was so unfortunate. He was starting to really come good and show, I guess why we signed him in the first place, and then that injury that has ruled him out for months and months and months. So I would like to see him come back. But I think, some youth players is a fair shout. Like we've seen at times when we've been short on the bench, Josh Hines and some of those guys like stepping up and getting a bit of a run. And so I wouldn't be against, if we can secure that mathematical safety and we got 4 or 5 games to go, then sure, let Shotta just go, well, let's see what we have within the club as a whole.
Yeah.
I think
to be fair, I mean, some of them are out on loan now, I guess, is the only downside. But yeah.
But I think, there's, even if it's like you're going, is Longman as a right wing back the best? Like, is that his best position? Is that the best option there? Is there, a younger guy coming, someone in the youth team who plays as a right wing back or a right back who could fill that spot and allow him to become, a more advanced option? Just some of those are the questions. I guess that I would.
This interesting comment from Chris. I think I might have missed this news from Ajun saying 8 to 10 new signings. I didn't know that was the number he was looking at. But it does start to explain the lack of movement on the contract front. If we were to be saying, well, we're not actually going to be re-signing that many players if we're going to bring in almost an entirely new 11. It would be harsh on players of the ilk of, I mean, I would expect that George Honeyman's, for instance, is still going to get a new contract, but maybe a Callum Elder, maybe an Ingram don't get new contracts because we're just looking at a higher quality of player. And you think, I'm trying to remember, I mean, Logan, you'd probably remember that promotion to the Premier League under Steve Bruce when I think it was Jack Hobbs went out to Forest, and we thought, oh, geez, that's a bit harsh. He was a standout player for us. And we replaced him with the Curtis Davies, and you think, are we actually really, we're making the right call here? It's a harsh one, and football's a harsh business, but maybe that's the direction we're looking in.
I also remember a period as well where I think Jay Simpson had scored like 5 or 6 goals in 5 games, and fans were screaming for him to get a new contract. And it looked like he was turning prolific, and they kind of said like, no, they waited on it. And I don't think he scored too many for the rest of the season. And it's moments like that where you do kind of, appreciate the people who sit in the right positions, and the average fan pundits aren't in the position with the checkbook to go making those business deals. So, I mean, as you said, sometimes it works for you, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm pretty sure that 8 to 10 new signings, it's a very difficult time. Yeah, if that's the case, and I guess that the argument on the other side of that is, well, we truly get to see what Shotta's made of if he gets to bring in that many players and put his stamp and play his style. Well, I mean, fair play. Like, it'd be pretty easy to judge a manager that has that level of freedom, and if they don't return the results.
Yeah, that's right. We'll finish talking about the games. We've got a few questions in the chat we'll get to after we finish previewing the games, but we've also got Millwall coming up. I mean, I guess I'm sort of throwing the two games together because, as you say, Logan, at this stage of the season, there's not a whole lot to differentiate them. They're games that we've still got to play. We'll line up how we line up in those games. I guess the only thing I'd say that we can still look forward to this season is, for instance, we play Nottingham Forest on the last day, Millwall trying to get into the top 6. We can still have that role of a spoiler. We can spoil the party for some of these sides trying to get into the top 6, which can be a bit of fun in itself. I guess that's sort of the motivation to go out and get that win against Milwall as well. But just talking about the two games in general, confident of a win, sort of 50-50. Don't think that there's that much riding on it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Like I guess I'll start with you, Dan. But how do you see the two games together?
I don't know. I'd be happy to take 3 points from the two games. Win one, lose one. That just about secure us. We'd be we'd be comfortable.
Yeah, I think a win secures us. I'm
so
pretty sure on the mats, but yeah.
I think that would probably be enough. I mean, obviously 2 wins would be great. It's always be nice to finish with some wins, break that home record. Get a win there. But yeah, I think I don't know. I think we're playing good football at the moment, so I don't really know. It's sort of a hard one to judge fully. I think we'll play good football, and then whether we can find the back of the net. That's probably our biggest problem, is getting the goal over the line and in the net.
Yeah, and look, Logan, I guess Dan makes a good point there, that the other element for finishing this season strongly is it's a good momentum into the preseason and into next season. You'd want to be sort of finishing on a really positive note. And for a lot of these players, if we're sort of talking about the number of signings that we're talking about, for a lot of these players, there's that motivation to go out and prove that they've still got a place at the club as well.
Absolutely. I think that's, exactly how they need to be approaching the game. So as I said, like from a fan's perspective, because there isn't too much riding on it, we probably won't read into the results. But if you're a player in the dressing room, there's no way you can be thinking like that, knowing that, in no uncertain terms, at this point, many of them don't have, immediate futures. And so, if that's what they're looking forward to, playing for a contract, well, that's going to only add to the kind of importance of the last few games, at least for them individually and as a playing group. So I think there's still a lot to be excited about, in the sense that we'll probably see some really good patches of football, and City winning's good no matter when it comes. But yeah, I agree with Dan. I think 3 points in the next 2 games would be very successful.
And then just to finish off with a question that I'm sure we'll be pondering a little bit over the last few weeks of the season, and probably start of next season as well, or probably all through next season potentially as well. It's just on the topic of KLP. Do you see him leaving this summer? I mean, I'm sort of the opinion that if we kept him in January, and I doubt we would have kept him in January just to see out this season, when we were, I mean, not assured of safety at that point, but certainly not, in any sort of terminal danger. I would suspect that we've kept hold of him to have a tilt next season with him in that side. So, I think, Dan, we were talking before the episode about this, but I guess if we're not looking in the playoff picture come January, maybe he leaves then. But where would you guys see? I mean, maybe a better way to phrase it is, what club do you think would be good for him to end up at? I mean, I know he's been linked to a Spurs, Brentford, West Ham, those sorts of clubs. Which of those, I guess I'll start with you, Logan. Which of those do you think is probably the best fit for him? And how much do you think we'd be sort of looking at getting for him?
Yeah, look, this one's a really interesting question. I think the reality check is that, he's just been capped for the England under 21s, and I mean, an incredible achievement to be able to play for his country. But I think that we have the kind of the bias in watching him week in, week out for City. We realize how good he is, and we've known that for quite some time, albeit him being extremely green. I just wonder if he does go to one of those top end Premier League clubs, the game time will dissolve, and certainly would be surprised to see him end up on the Spurs roster and find himself in the starting lineup. Like, he's definitely coming off the bench, and you just wonder if at this point in his career that's the right way to go. I think it would serve him really well to stay with City, given the fact that there seems to be a new vibrance around the club. We've got new signings coming in, and Boro reports a little bit of money to spend. So I just don't think that, from his perspective, particularly being a hometown boy, that there's really any desire to kind of push on and try and make that step too quickly. I think he's really proud to play for City, and I think he's excited at the prospect of, being a big part of their future. So, look, if he was to go, I think he probably would end up at one of those kind of 7, 8, 9, 10 area mid-table Premier League teams. And he'd command a fair fee. I couldn't see us letting him go for kind of anything, certainly anything less than 15. But I could, probably see that skyrocketing a little bit more, plus all the add-ons. So, look, it'd be interesting. I just don't think it's something we have to worry about. I know that whenever we do have these players, like with Jared Bowen, he was long linked with a Premier League move, and I think that, fair play to him, the timing of when he went to West Ham was spot on, and look at the player he's gone on to become for them. I think KLP is probably looking at that as a template, and I think he'll follow suit. I think he's at City for a little bit longer, at least till next January, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him go beyond that, particularly if we have success next season.
Yeah, and I think that template of Jared Bowen that you touch on is exactly what we were talking about as well, Dan, that you look at the fact that Bowen left City having scored 55, 60 goals for us in the league, in the championship, and was a consistent, regular goal threat for us. Whereas KLP, he's got 7 or 8 goals, I think, this season at the moment. I think it was his 8th goal.
9,
7th goal? 9 goals.
It was 9. But
sorry, that's you're right, because it was, I think he scored 12 last season, and I was looking at the fact he was 3 off that this season. I was thinking 7 to 10, but it's 9 to 12. He'd want to probably stick around for another season. I would say for the full season, to be honest, next year, to see how he can go in a more competitive side in the league, see what sort of goal return he can get before he considers that move to the Premier League. Because as Logan said, I think the concerns about game time, the concerns about his development at one of those clubs is such that I think it's actually in his best interest to stay at City for at least next season, to see how he develops. But I don't know, how do you see his prospects next season at potentially leaving the club?
I think I'm sort of with Logan. I think I don't see him leaving in the summer. It doesn't make any sense for him to have we've rebuffed all those offers just to secure safety, and then let him go. It doesn't really make any sense. I do think, depending on his form in the beginning of next season, will really depend on how long he's here. I think if he starts off and he has a strong first half of next season and he's got half a dozen goals, maybe closer to 10, maybe about this, but halfway through the season, because I think that's the thing. He needs to up that goal ratios, those goal rates, to really become like at that level that he's ready to step straight up and in. But I think you go, well, he's got potentially a good mentor and a good someone to go to for advice in Bowen, that it wouldn't be out of the realms of possibility that he would reach out and say, I'm being linked, how did you know it was the right time, and what do you reckon, what do you reckon? But I honestly don't think he's quite ready. If he was to go, there's going to West Ham and being with Bowen would be sensational.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking, is whether that makes sense.
He'd have the mentor, and he'd have all that there. But now you look at how well West Ham's going, and they're top
6, top 5 sort of thing.
Yeah, Europa, Champions Leagues, they're sort of fighting it out up there. So I think that they now essentially get marked in the too big a club thing. I think it's the same. He could go there, and it might be a good signing, but he'd also just spend a lot of time sitting on the bench. Even Bowen spent a lot of time on the bench, to start with, when he moved. But so I don't know. You're sort of thinking maybe. I think a newly promoted club would be a bad idea. I don't think, if, not that they would, but if Fulham or something was oh yeah, we want to buy Kepa, I don't think that would be a good move necessarily. But I don't know, probably in that somewhere who's 12th to 15th or something, that sort of mid-range would be not a huge
Brentford
club. But
Brentford might make sense. Brentford seems to be a good club at targeting the players that they need in the roles that they need them in. And then developing them in the system. So I think that sort of bracket for club probably makes sense. Hey, just before we wrap this up, just a really quick one. I mean, we've sort of already talked about Said Manesh earlier in the episode, and his potential at the club. Obviously, he's just on loan at the club. We have that clause to bring him in on a permanent deal. Talking about the 8 to 10 signings, I suspect that a couple of those would look at being, Baxter, maybe Bernard. I mean, Bernard's sort of dropped out of the picture at the moment. And Said Manesh is probably the other one that we'd look to sign on a permanent. Just really quickly from each of you, I mean, I guess I'll start with you, Logan. Do you think we've seen enough from him to sign him permanently?
Yeah, I do. I think that he came with a pretty, it was a handsome price tag too, if the contract reports are what they say they are. But he did come with a pretty large set of accolades as well. And I mean, to be fair, we haven't seen all that much of him. He obviously suffered the injury. I know Tom Eaves was getting the nod to begin, just because of the style we were playing. And fair play to Tom Eaves, he was in form. But I think at the weekend as well, we just started to get a glimpse. I think any player that comes, internationally, you've got to give them time to adjust because of the style of league championship is. And they obviously seeked him, and chased him pretty hard to get him, in the first point. So to kind of have him come to the club for a short time and then not take that offer, it would be really hard to judge. And, knowing City's luck would watch him go and fire on all cylinders wherever he goes to, and would just bemoan the loss that it was to see him off. I think they've seen enough, and I think he, from all reports, sounds pretty content. So I think he'll be there, and I think that he's definitely a player to look for in the future that has shown a lot of promise.
No doubt. And yeah, off to a World Cup December this year with Iran as well. So that's going to be quite cool. I can't remember the last World Cup player that we've had other than, I guess, Irvine, Jelavic a little bit for Croatia at that World Cup as well. But yeah, it's a pretty rare honor to have. Oh, I guess Grzycki was at the World Cup as well with Poland. Dan, do you think we'll get him in on a permanent? I mean, you've been pretty positive on him in this episode already.
Yeah, I think so. I think, and even if you look at the numbers that are attached, I think it was like 2 million or something. We paid 1.2 million for James Scott, and he was useless. So if we're gonna get Ali Sadmanesh for 2 million, I reckon that's a bargain.
Fair enough. Yeah, I know. We're talking about James Scott just before this episode because you kind of forget that he even exists and is still on our books.
I was thinking about because we've been talking a little bit about, if it's 8 to 10 incomings, who are the outgoings? And it's actually not that hard to list off a decent number of players that you go, they're probably not going to be here next season. I think we did it off air, but Scott, Huddleston, Moncur, Cannon, Walsh, there's 6, without even thinking about it, that probably won't be around. And so, I think if the 8 to 10 signings is the figure that's been touted and that's what we get, and they're of a higher quality, then all power to Ilijali and all power to the Tigers next season.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both for joining me for this episode, Dan and Logan.
No worries, mate. Anytime.
Yeah, good times. Pleasure to be here.
No worries. And thanks everyone for listening in as well. We love it when we've got these live questions as well. So keep them coming each and every episode. It's great to have live viewers and live questions for us to think about and chat about, because they're often topics that we haven't actually considered to talk about. So it's great to have those questions coming in as well.
That's
but look,
true,
but look, if you've enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you have,
I wanted to throw one more thing in as well, and I know that it's kind of made the news, but also Grant McCann tweeting earlier on the weekend after the result to sending his congratulations to City.
Oh, good stuff! I missed that.
Yeah, I did see that.
That's awesome.
Good. He played his part in that. So
incredibly classy.
Yeah, and I'm sure he'll talking about players
incredibly
leaving
classy
the club
from someone who has been.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. I think he'll be standing there with his new Peterborough role, just waiting for those offcuts of his signings to come and return to him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. No, that's really classy. I hadn't seen that from McCann, so that's good to hear as well. Look, thanks everyone for watching along. If you've enjoyed the episode, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't already. Share the video around as well. And then for anyone listening on audio as well, you can always leave a review or anything as well. So thanks everyone for listening in. We'll be back this time next week to discuss the Milwall and the Cardiff games. Where hopefully we get a couple more points on the board and score a few goals as well. But until next time, come on City.